Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our podcast.
My name is Kathy and I'm a tutor here at Britsent.
My name is Flora and I'm also a tutor here at Britsent.
Welcome to our first podcast.
This is episode 1, Our Story. We will tell you a little bit about ourselves and then what you can expect in the following podcasts.
So thank you for joining us. Flora, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm from Brighton originally, but I recently moved to London just before lockdown. I've been teaching English for over a year, and previously I taught in Vietnam, and then just before that I taught in Spain also.
Nice.
And Kathy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm originally from London, but I haven't lived here for 5 years until now. So I've been mostly teaching and travelling a little bit as well, working in Austria and Germany, and then in Vietnam as well, and also in Indonesia. But this is actually my first job back in my hometown, back in London.
Yeah, this is my first job back in the UK as well. Listeners, as you may have just heard, we both taught in Vietnam, which is actually where Kathy and I met.
That we did. We both actually worked in Hanoi, which is the capital city of Vietnam. And we taught for the same school there.
So, Kathy, can you remember the first time we met?
I can. So it was a bit of a strange time in our school. And I remember coming back into the staff room after one of my classes, and there was a girl about my age sitting there on a chair with her leg. Was it in a plaster cast?
No, it wasn't in a plaster cast, but it was wrapped in a bandage, yes.
And what happened? Do you remember?
Well, yes, I had a little bit of an accident upon arriving in Vietnam. So I don't know if any of our listeners will have been to Hanoi or anywhere in Vietnam for that matter, but they like to drive motorbikes. It's the main form of transportation. So I was getting one of the popular grab bike taxi motorbike, and I was getting that from the old quarter centre of town back to my hotel. And I was getting off, and as this was the first time that I had ever been on a motorbike, I wasn't accustomed to motorbike etiquette, we can call it. So I was trying to get off the bike safely, and I decided not to get off on the traffic side as to not get hit. So I stepped off on the exhaust side of the motorbike.
Not good.
No, and as you can imagine from now, probably, I was wearing a very short dress. And as you can imagine, I started leaning my leg against the exhaust pipe, and I could just feel this really strange sensation on my leg. And I didn't really put 2 and 2 together, so I ended up holding it there for quite a long time as I slowly demounted from the bike. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, what's that? And then I looked down and there was this big red mark on my leg. So obviously started panicking. I ran into the hotel and I turned on the shower. But as it was the end of summer, it was still really hot. So the water from the shower wasn't running cold, and I was then just pouring lukewarm and actually, to be honest, quite hot water on a 2nd degree burn, which...
Not great, yeah.
No, not the best idea in the world.
And do you still have a scar from it?
I do. I thought it was going to look really cool. When it was all healed, I was like, oh, this is going to look badass. I'll always remember my time in Vietnam. But it's actually just a little red circle. So
something to remember it by, though.
True. Oh, and I remember the first time also that I met you, Kathy.
This won't be good.
I was sitting planning away, and I could just hear I think you must have been away when I first arrived. I'm not sure because I just hadn't seen you yet, but I'd seen other people in the office.
Probably on holiday. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I could just hear this very animated, very loud young English woman chatting away behind me. And then I turned around and it was you. And I was like, oh.
And then we were friends ever since.
Friends ever since, yes. Kathy, can you tell me what you thought was the best thing about living in Vietnam or living abroad just in general?
So I've lived abroad a fair bit, and I think the really special thing about Vietnam was the people and just how wonderful and kind and generous they were. So I was lucky enough to teach some families at their family homes, And almost every time I went there, they'd offer me some sort of traditional delicacy or something to try, or they'd suggest going and doing something together during the week. I felt very welcomed by the people in Vietnam and really happy to have made some long-lasting friendships with people there.
That's really sweet.
So Flora, what was the best part of Vietnam or living abroad for you?
For me, I think it was probably, in Vietnam, it was the landscape, the natural landscape. Because I was very lucky to have the chance to have quite a lot of time off work in order to go and travel and explore around Vietnam. And I just found the natural landscape like so breathtaking. And it was the first time I'd been or lived or even been outside of Europe. So for me, it was all that kind of nature and environment was totally different to anything I'd experienced before. And I just thought it was really, really breathtaking.
Yeah, it's stunning. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
So not to be a negative Nancy, but what are the worst things about living abroad for you, Kathy?
We've already mentioned it. I think it's a double-edged sword, the motorbikes there.
Yeah.
Best and worst. I absolutely loved getting around on motorbikes, but some of the most scary parts of it were the crashes that I had. And I was never particularly hurt, just a little bit shaken. But they have a very pragmatic approach to crashes, where you're just expected to sort of turn your bike off, pick it up, and get back on and then go. And no one really stops or helps you. So that was probably the worst, and a bit of an adjustment as well.
Yeah, just a lot to get your head around, really, isn't it?
It really is. So what were the maybe more negative parts of Vietnam for you, Flora?
I think it was just missing my friends and family.
Difficult.
Yeah, I think obviously being homesick is so common, and towards the end of my time there, I just really missed my loved ones and the people I hold near and dear, as much as I made my own Vietnam family whilst I was out there.
Yeah. So that's how and where we met, and also how we both ended up teaching here at Britsent, which is cool. So the second part of our podcast is going to be our highlights of the week. So this will be books or movies or TV shows or art that we've particularly enjoyed that we think that you guys might enjoy as well. So Flora, what have you particularly liked this week?
My first highlight of the week is a jazzy radio show called Musica Macondo. I will put that in the description of this podcast so you know how to spell it. It's usually on Jazz FM in the UK, but our listeners can find it online on SoundCloud. And it's basically jazz/world music radio program, and it will celebrate maybe a different artist from a particular region of the world that has a very niche music style every week. And yeah, I've just been really enjoying having it on the background whilst I'm cooking or chilling out. I've really enjoyed it, especially when I'm taking a screen break recently.
And is it good to study to, do you think?
Oh, good question. I think that it depends on the student, because I know for some people you need like very ambient, minimal music on in the background in order to concentrate, and this is not that. It can be quite lively music, so if that's something you're easily distracted by, then maybe not the best for studying.
And what else have you enjoyed?
My second highlight of the week is a book called The Daughter of Venice by Donna Jo Napoli. And I read this book last summer, and it's a really nice story about a little girl, and I think it's like 18th century, could be wrong. She's born into quite an aristocratic family, and as a result, she can't leave the house on her own, and she can't really explore very much. And so it's about her adventures dressing up as a boy and going out and exploring the Venice that she had learned so much about in her education, but she had never got to experience in real life. So yeah, it's really pleasant. It's a really good summer read, I thought.
Nice.
Kathy, what are your highlights of the week?
So I've got two for you this week. I've got a book and a TV show. The TV show, you might have heard of it actually, is called Community, and I'm bringing it up now despite it having finished already because they've just put it onto Netflix just in time for quarantine, for lockdown. So you've got all of the seasons on Netflix at the moment, and it's the story of 6 students who join a community college as adults to finish their degrees, and it's about all of the adventures and mishaps that they get up to during their time there. And it's short episodes, easy to understand, very funny, very well made. I totally recommend it.
I've heard good things about Community. I must watch it.
Let me know what you think.
Well, I'll put it on my watch list.
And the other thing I'd like to recommend is quite an advanced book, but a very good book nonetheless, called Exciting Times by Nisha Dolan, who's an Irish author. It's the story of a teacher who works in Hong Kong and her experiences out there and the relationships she forms there. It's also quite a scathing look at the English language. A nice little quote from it is, "Look, I'd say, it's like English grammar. It doesn't make sense, but it's too late to change it," which I think sums up quite a few of my students' attitude towards English grammar. But it is beautifully written and well worth a read if you've got some time on your hands.
Excellent. I think I'm definitely going to give that book a try as well. The last segment of our podcast every week is going to be our slang segment, where Kathy and I will tell you one or maybe two British slang words or Britishisms for you to learn. So, Kathy, what is your slang word this week?
My slang word this week is one of my favourites. It is banging.
What does banging mean?
It's slang for great, awesome, fantastic. It's very versatile.
Good. Can you give us some example sentences?
So you could say about something you like that it's absolutely banging. Or if someone confirms that you're going for a drink or going for coffee, you could say, "Oh, banging, I'll see you there." What about you, Flora? What's your Britishism of the week?
So my Britishism this week is naff.
And what does naff mean?
Naff basically just means rubbish. So it means rubbish in terms of being tacky, so being not very stylish. And it also can mean something that doesn't work properly.
And have you got example sentences for us, Flora?
Yeah, of course. For example, I have a very old iPhone. I have an iPhone 5, which is absolutely ancient. It doesn't download apps anymore, so it is definitely naff. It's a very naff phone. And also maybe the tacky leopard print top I'm wearing is naff.
Okay, nice. Thanks, Flora. Thank you for listening to our first podcast. What you can expect from our future podcast is a little bit of free talk at the start, followed by our highlights of the week, followed by a little bit of those Britishisms, the slang that we'll share with you as our language focus. And Flora, what sort of topics can our listeners expect?
Yeah, so upcoming topics for our podcast will be things like self-care in Corona times, solo travel, exercise, Tinder and online dating, a little bit of a saucy episode for you there, and university in England.
Cool. And if you guys have any questions or comments or recommendations for us or anything you'd like us to talk about, pop a comment underneath the video and we will reply to you in our next podcast.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening to our first episode and we look forward to doing more.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.